Well, former United States President Barack Obama has been confirmed, as you've just heard, to deliver the 16th annual Nelson Mandela Lecture later this year. The 44th President of the United States follows in the footsteps of other influential personalities that include another former United States President, Bill Clinton, former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and former Irish President Mary Robinson, among others. Our correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, takes a walk rather down memory lane and reminds us of the unexpected historic nature of Obama's rise to power and the similarities that can be drawn between the first black presidents of South Africa and the United States.
The two former presidents met only once in person, a chance meeting in 2005 in Washington, when then little-known Barack Obama, the junior senator from Illinois, was allowed to pay Madiba a short courtesy call at his hotel.
Obviously, the two first, I would assume that it holds a special weight for Obama and a special significance just because he's delivering such a significant speech on the continent of Africa, right? I remember when he spoke at Nelson Mandela's funeral and trying to contextualize, so many of us grew up seeing apartheid, making some parallels and connections to what was going on in the United States, but sort of seeing apartheid symbolized in one great man. In somewhat similar ways to Dr. King in the United States, Nelson Mandela symbolized struggle, perseverance, dedication, freedom, uplift, all of these adjectives that really encompass a complicated nation.
Born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1961 to Ann Dunham, a white woman from Wichita, Kansas, and a Kenyan father, Barack Obama Sr. The future president would spend 4 years in early childhood living in Indonesia with his mother and her second husband. He would attend both Columbia and later Harvard University, where he graduated magna cum laude in law in 1991. He worked as a community organizer and a law professor in Chicago, later elected to the Illinois State Senate, then the United States Senate.
Hello, Chicago!
And his crowning achievement of being elected the first black president of the United States in 2008, a trajectory that took most political observers by surprise. Who is Barack Obama in your view?
I always said that Barack Obama was like Superman. He's from everywhere and nowhere, right? And for Americans, you can put all of your racial hopes, dreams, fears, anxieties on this one particular person, and he came at a distinct moment where that worked.
Oh, yeah.
This historian speaks to the moment in time, much like Madiba, that Obama's inauguration represented to so many.
I do remember during his first inauguration thinking and feeling very poignant about all the people who had died in some sense to see this happen, and how that both is, there's a great feeling of some sort of triumph and at the same time quite poignant, because not only did I not live to see this day, but also because it's a half measure.
Sherwin,
Mr. President,
how are you, sir?
in 2010, we were invited to interview President Obama at the White House, and the conversation inevitably moved to Madiba, then already 92 years old.
He continues to be a model of leadership, not just for South Africa, but for the world. So we celebrate him here in the United States as you do in South Africa. We wish him all the best, and you know, we are constantly reminded that his legacy of seeing every person as important and not making distinctions based on race or class, but the degree to which they are people of character. You know, that's a good guidepost for how all of us should operate as leaders. And so I wish him all the best. And South Africa continues, I think, to be blessed by not just a national treasure, but a world treasure.
Obama would never meet Madiba as president or in person again after that 2005 chance meeting in Washington, but then First Lady Michelle Obama, on a trip to South Africa with daughters Malia and Sasha in 2011, were allowed to visit at his Houghton home. We asked both experts what comparisons we might draw between Madiba and Obama.
Nelson Mandela was a freedom fighter for his entire life. And so you see all these sort of groups around the world who've been fighting oppression, patriarchy, anti whatever it may be. And he was essentially our president, all of our presidents. I think Obama is that way for a lot of people as well. Just fast forward one generation, what he meant and what he means to a lot of people on the continent, just because America is this beacon that many people idolize and idealize. I think that this moment, hopefully, Obama will be able to weave together the struggles of Mandela and then the struggles that we all still face globally.
Obama united two ends of a timeline. And in many ways, Mandela is doing the same thing, but from a very, very different position. Somebody who had the memory and was present throughout. So there's parallels here in the sense that you can make those similar sort of connections. And I guess in the same ways you could say, and the sort of unfulfilled aspects of, both presidencies is perhaps, an underlying unity as well.
And when Madiba died in 2013, President Obama was among the very first world leaders to go before the cameras.
I am one of the countless millions who drew inspiration from Nelson Mandela's life. My very first political action, the first thing I ever did that involved an issue or a policy or politics, was a protest against apartheid. I would study his words and his writings. The day he was released from prison gave me a sense of what human beings can do when they're guided by their hopes and not by their fears. And like so many around the globe, I cannot fully imagine my own life without the example that Nelson Mandela set. And so long as I live, I will do what I can to learn from him.
And as the world marks the centenary of Madiba's birth, it will be Mr. Obama's task to pay homage to what has been achieved, and then to articulate the certain but winding road that lies ahead, particularly on questions of social and economic justice. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.